Spiritual ascension is your birthright. This is what Christian scriptures called seeking the kingdom of God within. And when you do ascend beyond the conditioning of low planes of existence into higher ones, the lens through which you perceive reality would become clearer, and in addition, the universe would also shift in accordance to your heightened state of consciousness. Mortals around you would begin to perceive you differently, because your aura, your demeanor, your gaze and posture would correspond with the dimension where your indwelling spirit is tuned into. This is why the multitude would always feel drawn to mystics and flock around gurus like sheep, gravitating close to shepherds. Oratory alone is not why the presence of true spiritual leaders often seem irresistibly magnetic. Rather, it's because they've consciously taken time to grow spiritually. They've built capacity, and now they are internally in attunement with spiritual dimensions that are in closer proximity to the source of all things. Mortals vibrating at low frequencies would always be compelled to gravitate towards gurus, mystics, and true spiritual leaders without a logical reason. It's a spiritual dance, not a physical one. This explains why some people effortlessly attract opportunities and everything good wherever they find themselves, while others are left wondering if they have a luck charm. No, they don't. That's the law of resonance at work. You would always attract people, opportunities, and events that correspond with your internal state of vibration. And from a deeper spiritual perspective, this implies that the spiritual dimension that your indwelling spirit is tuned to would always determine what collapses into your reality. Though chickens, pigeons, ravens, owls, and eagles are all birds with feathers, yet their frequencies do not correspond. An eagle soaring way high in the clouds would only encounter other eagles while at her peak altitude. This is a crystal clear depiction of a universal law. You can only attract people, opportunities, and events that correspond with your spiritual frequency. And just as chickens would only have a myopic perception of the earth from the ground level, eagles would always have an enlightened perception of the same world from the altitude that they operate from. This applies to you too. Your spiritual clarity and intuition heightens as you ascend into higher spiritual planes that are in closer proximity to God, who indeed is the most high frequency. Now that you understand this mystery, subtracting yourself from the chaotic noise of the external world and retreating to a cave in Tibet won't save you. Rather, mastering the art of energy transmutation and consciously entering higher planes of consciousness whenever you discern that your internal state of vibration have been altered is how you would get to ascend spiritually and navigate your destiny in an untethered alignment with your intuition, despite the chaotic frequencies that keep the spirit of most humans trapped in a loop. This is how you can exist in the world without being of the world, as the Holy Scripture puts it. Sounds are portals that lead to various spiritual planes. I mean, if certain sounds can numb and distort your intuition, some others would definitely serve as gateways into higher dimensions, where your intuition and spiritual clarity would become sharpened. If you intend to have an experiential understanding of the mystery behind sounds, then you should try this. First, ensure you separate yourself from the chaotic noise that have been etched into the atmosphere around you. And this does not imply going to a solitary place alone. You also have to quiet your mind and find that inner stillness that resonates with the sacred hush of the midnight's vibration. When you find that inner stillness, then you are in alignment with your spirit. Now, while in that state, before going to bed at night, ensure you listen to the circular songs you enjoy for at least 30 minutes to 1 hour. Ensure you enjoy those songs while you listen, then go to bed afterwards. When you wake up, observe your inner world. Observe the dreams you had and how the night went. Whatever you observe, just write it down. Here's a spoiler anyways. You would most likely have weird and chaotic dreams. In fact, this is even if you remember your dreams. Also, you would hardly hear the inaudible voice of your inner man. The next day, before sleeping, do the same experiment, but this time with 440 hertz sounds, harp sounds, worship songs, or instrumentals that resonate with higher frequencies. You can find these on any music platform of your choice. You can also say a prayer before sleeping, and then observe your dreams and spiritual radar when you wake up. You would realize how there would definitely be a shift in your inner world and external perception after those 2 nights. You have to understand that when you sleep, your spirit sends you messages that you were too distracted to listen to during the day, and that's because your ego stays quiet when you sleep. Dreams are also one of the means through which your indwelling spirit and other beings in the immaterial world send you prophetic insights via a dramatic allegory. Forgetting your dreams or having weird dreams implies that the spiritual atmosphere around you is indeed chaotic. This is how powerful sounds are. Through sounds, you can either enter lower and chaotic states of consciousness or migrate into higher ones. Bodily exercise profits little. 1 Timothy 4 verse 8. When you find yourself in a low state of consciousness, or you discern how intrusive or lustful thoughts seem to invade your mental space in response to the atmosphere you got exposed to, then transmuting that mental state through intense workout or long walks would help you get back on your peak frequency, where your intuition would become heightened and clear again. Thoughts and imaginations, too, are doorways that lead to different spiritual planes, and it's not thoughts that are inherently powerful, but the human attention. This is a sacred truth that mystics have known for years. Wherever your mental attention goes, your destiny follows. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Most humans are totally unaware of this, and it is evident in how they tend to worship their problems mentally by overthinking. And in response to such worship, the universe would be left with no other choice but to bring thoughts that correspond with the worrisome ones that they've decided to feed with attention and energy. Now that you know this, you should use this wisdom consciously. The spiritual dimension that you are internally aligned to would always determine the kind of thoughts, ideas, and inspirations that would flow into your mind, and it's deeper than what you think. Here's the catch. When Jesus mentioned, "In my Father's house there are many mansions," he was referring to multiple planes of existence, and in each of those mansions there are as well many rooms with unequal splendor, depending on the nature of the spirit entities that are compatible with such realms. This was an allegory Jesus could use to explain what is indeed a spiritual and mystical truth. Anyways, since you are a spiritual being having a physical experience, and you exist both in the material and immaterial world simultaneously, you could tune the knob of your indwelling spirit to the frequency of any of those dimensions at any moment. For crystal clarity, picture the numerous versions of you that you could experience as actual persons in numerous rooms. What makes these various versions of you different are the thoughts running through their minds And you can enter any of those rooms and become any of those persons by simply picking a thought that corresponds with the frequency of any of those rooms, and watch how that thought becomes the key that opens the door. You do this often, that moment when you unconsciously selected a thought that resonates with anger, and you fed that thought with enough attention and energy till similar thoughts began to gravitate towards your mind. Before you knew it, you had credible reasons to be angry at every little thing around you. Eventually, this mental migration from one state of consciousness to another had a ripple effect on the tone of your voice, your sense of self, your perception of reality, and your aura. Also, those around you noticed and treated you in respect to the energetic signature that you transmitted into the universe. This is how powerful thoughts are. But remember, thoughts are not inherently powerful. Your attention and energy as a human being are very priceless commodities in the universe. With this understanding, whenever your mind gets overwhelmed by intrusive, undesirable, and chaotic thoughts, you can apply this same principle by sitting in stillness with your eyes closed or open, whichever suits you. Then withdraw your attention from the chaotic thoughts that you've been worshipping in your mind. Just observe those thoughts without engaging. And once that's done, select any thought that vibrates in alignment with a higher version of you. Such thought could resonate with the frequency of gratitude or of any intuitive desire that you wish to materialize in your 3D experience. It could even be one of your favorite scriptures. It's your call. Once you find that specific thought that you want to use as a key to unlock a higher plane of consciousness, keep repeating it in your mind. Keep feeding that thought with your energy. And eventually, once again, you'd leave the universe with no other choice but to feed your mind with thoughts that resonate at that specific frequency. Before you know it, you've mentally migrated into a different state of consciousness, and there would be a ripple effect on both your internal and external experience. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. Though the external circumstances that caused your mind to be previously flooded with those chaotic thoughts are still in front of you, yet you've mentally shifted into a higher dimension, and in response to your aura, those around you would definitely wonder how you have this level of poise, even in front of problems. But it's only a matter of time anyways. That same problem would be absorbed by the higher state of consciousness that you are now operating from. It is only when you shift to a higher dimension, without being drowned by the seductive allure of lower ones, when faced with problems, that you would be able to see the problem in front of you clearly and have a crystal clear intuition on the possible solutions. Prayers are portals too. When you stay in prayer, you are not just communicating with the source of all things, you are also tuning your mental and spiritual frequencies from a low plane to a high one. And eventually, the peace of God that surpasses all understanding shall fill your heart and mind. Philippians 4, verse 7. Also, you should know that there are men on earth that have made conscious effort to tune their indwelling spirits to dimensions that are in closer proximity to the source of all things. And whenever you are in their presence or you hear them speak, there's a divine energy that effortlessly pulls you into their light. This explains why the mere presence of mystics, gurus, and true spiritual leaders often heal those that are spiritually and mentally oppressed. Humans that have ascended into spiritual dimensions that are in closer proximity to God too are portals to higher states of consciousness. You don't ascend spiritually by always escaping anything that distorts your neural pathways and spiritual frequency. Rather, spiritual ascension is the inevitable consequence of mastering your mind and energies, which implies you being able to transmute the darkness that often clouds your spiritual radar after you find yourself in lower states of consciousness while engaging with the external world, till you enter a higher dimension of light on the other end of that darkness. This is how you grow spiritually, even in the midst of the chaotic frequencies that have been etched into the atmosphere around you. But you have to be sincere with yourself here, because whenever you either consciously or unconsciously tune your internal state of vibration to lower planes of existence, without transmuting that chaotic energy as soon as you can, you'd eventually experience energy leakage. Discernment is your shield on the path towards self-mastery and spiritual ascension. For other folks out there that need to find this message, push the like button and share with those that you believe would need it.